The morning sun cast long shadows across the military base as Colonel James Morrison adjusted his uniform for the third time. Today was not an ordinary day at the British Army garrison. Princess and the Princess Royal was coming to visit the Gurkha Regiment, and everything had to be perfect. The Gurkhas had been preparing for weeks. These brave soldiers from Nepal had served the British Crown for over 200 years, earning respect and admiration from everyone who knew their story. Their motto, "Better to die than be a coward," spoke volumes about their character and dedication. Sergeant Major Bishnu Garoon walked through the barracks one final time, his experienced eyes checking every detail. At 52, he had served with the Gurkhas for 30 years. His weathered face showed the marks of countless missions in Afghanistan, Bosnia, and other challenging places around the world. Today, he would meet royalty, but he was more nervous about representing his men properly than about protocol. The young Gurkha soldiers polished their boots until they could see their reflections. Private Anish Rai, only 19 years old, had joined the regiment 6 months ago after completing his training in Nepal. This would be his first royal visit, and his hands trembled slightly as he cleaned his rifle for inspection. Princess Anne's car arrived precisely at 10 o'clock. She stepped out wearing her military uniform, displaying the medals and honor she had earned through her decades of service as Colonel-in-Chief of various regiments. Her reputation preceded her. She was known for being direct, knowledgeable about military matters, and genuinely interested in the welfare of soldiers. The princess walked along the line of Gurkha soldiers, each standing at perfect attention. She paused frequently, asking questions about their service, their families back in Nepal, and their experiences in the British Army. Her genuine interest surprised some of the newer recruits who had expected a more formal, distant interaction. When she reached Private Rai, she noticed his nervousness and smiled warmly. "How long have you been with the regiment?" she asked in a kind voice. The young soldier's English was still developing, but he managed to answer clearly about his recent arrival and his pride in wearing the Gurkha uniform. The princess nodded approvingly and moved on, but her brief interaction had made a lasting impression on the young man. He would remember this moment for the rest of his military career. Colonel Morrison guided the princess to the regiment's museum, where displays showed the long history of Gurkha service to Britain. Ancient kukris, the curved knives that were the symbol of Gurkha warriors, sat alongside modern military equipment. Photographs on the walls showed Gurkha soldiers in various conflicts, their faces serious but determined. Princess Anne studied each display carefully, asking detailed questions about specific battles and the soldiers who had fought in them. Her knowledge of military history impressed even the most senior officers present. She knew about the Gurkha service in both world wars, their role in the Falklands conflict, and their recent deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. One particular photograph caught her attention. It showed a group of Gurkha soldiers receiving medals after a dangerous mission in Afghanistan. 3 of those soldiers were still serving with the regiment and were present today. The princess asked to meet them personally. Corporal Tej Limbu stepped forward when called. He had been one of the soldiers in the photograph, taken after a mission where his unit had rescued British civilians trapped in a dangerous area. His left arm bore scars from that operation, but he stood proud and tall before the princess. "I remember reading about your mission," Princess Anne said, looking directly at him. "Your bravery saved lives that day." Corporal Limbu felt a surge of pride hearing these words from someone he had only seen on television before. The princess then visited the training facilities where young Gurkha recruits learned their skills. She watched as experienced instructors demonstrated combat techniques and survival skills that had been passed down through generations of Gurkha warriors. The training sergeant explained how recruits from Nepal's mountains adapted to different environments and learned to use modern military equipment while maintaining the traditional fighting spirit that made Gurkhas legendary. As the morning progressed, it became clear that this was not just a ceremonial visit. Princess Anne genuinely wanted to understand the challenges facing Gurkha soldiers and their families. She asked about housing, education for their children, and the difficulties of maintaining connections with families thousands of miles away in Nepal. The regimental welfare officer, Captain Sarah Matthews, briefed the princess on the support programs available to Gurkha families. These included English language classes, help with British citizenship applications, and assistance for families adjusting to life in a completely different culture. Princess listened intently to every detail, occasionally making notes in a small notebook she carried. Her questions showed deep understanding of the unique challenges faced by soldiers who had left their homeland to serve a foreign country, yet had become completely loyal to their adopted military family. The morning ended with a traditional ceremony in the regiment's chapel. Gurkha soldiers, regardless of their personal religious beliefs, participated in moments of remembrance for fallen comrades. The princess laid a wreath at the memorial that bore the names of Gurkhas who had died in service to Britain. As she stood in silent respect, many of the soldiers reflected on the bonds that connected them across cultures, languages, and backgrounds. The princess's presence honored not just their current service, but the sacrifices of generations of Gurkha warriors who had come before them. The ceremony concluded with the playing of both the British national anthem and a traditional Nepali song that reminded the soldiers of their mountain homeland. Princess stood respectfully throughout both pieces of music, showing her understanding that these men served two countries in their hearts: Nepal, where they were born, and Britain, which they had chosen to defend. After the ceremony, informal conversations began as the princess moved among the soldiers, their families, and the British officers who serve alongside them. These personal interactions would continue throughout her visit, creating memories and connections that would last long after she returned to her other royal duties. The afternoon brought Princess into the family quarters where Gurkha soldiers lived with their wives and children. These small apartments and houses formed a close-knit community within the large military base. The smell of Nepali spices drifted from kitchen windows as families prepared traditional meals alongside British dishes their children had grown to love. Mrs. Kamala Gurung, wife of Sergeant Major Bishnu Gurung, had been cooking since dawn. She wore her finest sari and had prepared dal bhat, the traditional Nepali rice and lentil dish, hoping the princess might accept a small taste. Her hands shook with nervousness as she arranged the food on traditional brass plates that her mother-in-law had sent from Nepal. Their daughter, Sita, was 15 years old and spoke English with a slight British accent mixed with hints of her parents' Nepali pronunciation. She attended the local British school and excelled in mathematics and science, dreams of becoming an engineer dancing in her young mind. Today, she would meet a real princess, something she had only read about in storybooks. Princess entered the Gurung home with genuine warmth, removing her military cap and accepting the cup of traditional Nepali tea that Mrs. Gurung offered with trembling hands. The princess spoke slowly and clearly, understanding that English was not the first language for many of the military wives. "Your home is lovely," Princess said, admiring the mixture of British furniture and Nepali decorations. Traditional wooden masks from Nepal hung alongside school photographs of Sita receiving academic awards. A small shrine in the corner held images of Hindu gods next to family photographs, creating a beautiful blend of old traditions and new life. Mrs. Gurung's English was limited, but her pride in her family's service was universal. Through simple words and gestures, she showed the princess photographs of her husband's military career, his medals, and newspaper clippings about his regiment's achievements. Sita served as translator when her mother's emotions overwhelmed her English vocabulary. The teenager explained how her family had moved from a small mountain village in Nepal to this British military base, adapting to cold weather, different food, and a completely new way of life. "My mother misses Nepal very much," Sita explained, "but she is proud that my father serves the Queen. She says we have two homes now, one in our hearts and one where we live." Princess nodded with understanding. She had traveled extensively and knew how difficult it could be to adapt to new cultures, even temporarily. For these families, the adaptation was permanent, requiring courage and strength that often went unrecognized. The conversation turned to education and opportunities for Gurkha children. Sita explained her dreams of studying engineering at university, but also shared concerns about the cost and whether her family could afford such education. Princess and listened carefully, asking detailed questions about scholarship programs and support available to military families. Education opens doors, the princess told Sita directly. Your determination and your family service have already opened many doors for you. Keep working hard, and those doors will continue to open. Next, Princess and visited the home of a young Gurkha family. Lance Corporal Ram Bahadur Thapa and his wife Sunita had been married for just 2 years. Their first baby, a son named Arjun, was only 6 months old. This was their first experience living outside Nepal, and every day brought new challenges and discoveries. Sunita had struggled with loneliness during her husband's training exercises and deployments. Speaking very little English when she first arrived, she had felt isolated and homesick. However, the other Gurkha wives had welcomed her like a sister, teaching her English phrases, showing her how to use British appliances, and helping her navigate the healthcare system when baby Arjun was born. The other wives became my family here, Sunita explained through an interpreter holding her baby close. They taught me that being brave is not just for soldiers. Wives must be brave too, living so far from our mothers and sisters. Princess and asked to hold baby Arjun, and the infant gurgled happily in her experienced arms. As a mother and grandmother herself, the princess understood the universal joys and concerns of raising children. She asked practical questions about childcare support, medical care, and how young families managed when fathers were deployed for months at a time. The visit continued to the community center where Gurkha wives attended English language classes 3 times per week. Mrs. Jennifer Walsh, a retired teacher and Army wife herself, volunteered to teach these classes. She had developed a special curriculum that helped the women learn not just English words, but also British customs, legal rights, and practical skills for daily life. Today's lesson was interrupted for the royal visit, but Princess and asked Mrs. Walsh to continue teaching so she could observe. The women, ranging in age from 18 to 50, sat in a circle practicing conversations about shopping, visiting doctors, and helping their children with homework. Princess and listened as Parvati, a grandmother who had come to Britain to help care for her grandchildren, struggled with English pronunciation. The older woman felt embarrassed, but the princess encouraged her warmly. Learning a new language at any age shows tremendous courage, she said. Your grandchildren are lucky to have someone so determined to connect with their new world. The language class revealed deeper challenges facing Gurkha families. Many wives had been well educated in Nepal, but found their qualifications were not recognized in Britain. Dr. Maya Rana had been a nurse in Kathmandu, but was working as a cleaner while studying to pass British nursing examinations. Her story was repeated by other professional women who had sacrificed their careers to support their husband's military service. Princess and spoke privately with several of these women, learning about their frustrations and aspirations. She took notes about programs that might help with credential recognition and professional development. These conversations would later influence her advocacy for military families facing similar challenges. The afternoon included a visit to the base school, where Gurkha children studied alongside children of British military families. The multicultural classroom buzzed with different accents and languages during break time, but during lessons, all the children learned together in English. Teacher Miss Emily Harrison explained how Gurkha children often excelled academically, bringing strong work ethics from their Nepali upbringing. However, some struggled with cultural differences and occasionally faced teasing from other children about their appearance or unusual names. Princess and spoke with several Gurkha children, asking about their favorite subjects and future plans. 10-year-old Prabin Limbu explained that he wanted to be a soldier like his father, but also thought about becoming a doctor to help people. His dual aspirations reflected the complex identity of second-generation Gurkha children, proud of their heritage, but fully integrated into British society. 8-year-old Anjali Thapa showed the princess her artwork depicting both British landscapes and Nepali mountains. "This is my daddy's work," she said, pointing to a drawing of soldiers. "And this is where Grandma lives," she added, indicating snow-capped peaks that she had never seen but knew from family stories. The children's easy mixing of languages, switching between English and Nepali mid-sentence, demonstrated their natural bilingual abilities. Princess and observed how these skills could become advantages in their future careers, connecting British and Nepali communities in business, diplomacy, or humanitarian work. During afternoon tea in the officers' mess, Princess and met with wives of both Gurkha and British officers. These women had formed strong friendships across cultural lines, supporting each other through deployments, celebrations, and family crises. Mrs. Patricia Morrison, the colonel's wife, explained how the military community had evolved to embrace diversity. 20 years ago, integration was more challenging, she admitted. Today, our children play together, our families celebrate each other's festivals, and we've all learned to cook both roast beef and dal bhat. The conversation revealed how military life created unique bonds between families from different backgrounds. Shared experiences of separation, worry during deployments, and pride in their husband's service created understanding that transcended cultural differences. Evening approached as Princess and prepared to witness one of the most sacred traditions in Gurkha military culture, the blessing of the kukris. These curved knives were more than weapons. They were symbols of honor, courage, and the unbreakable bond between Gurkha warriors and their ancestors. The ceremony took place in the regiment's courtyard, where ancient stones formed a circle around a small fire. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on the faces of soldiers who had gathered in formation. Each Gurkha carried his kukri, some inherited from fathers and grandfathers, others earned through their own service and bravery. Sergeant Major Bishnu Gurung stepped forward as the senior Gurkha present. His kukri had been blessed in Nepal 30 years ago, when he first joined the British Army as a young man, barely 18 years old. The blade showed signs of careful maintenance and use, its edge still sharp enough to slice through thick rope with a single stroke. Princess and watched respectfully as the sergeant major began speaking in Nepali, his words carrying the weight of centuries of tradition. A junior officer translated quietly for the British personnel present, explaining that the blessing honored fallen comrades, sought protection for future missions, and renewed each soldier's commitment to the Gurkha way of life. The ceremony included prayers from different faiths represented within the regiment: Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, and others. This religious diversity reflected Nepal's own mixed heritage and the British Army's policy of respecting all beliefs while maintaining unit cohesion. Young Private Anish Rai held his newly issued kukri with trembling hands. Unlike the veteran soldiers around him, his weapon bore no battle scars or family history. Tonight, it would receive its first formal blessing, marking his full acceptance into the brotherhood of Gurkha warriors. As each soldier stepped forward to have his kukri blessed, Princess and observed the deep emotion in their faces. These tough, battle-hardened men showed tenderness and reverence that revealed the spiritual dimension of their military service. For them, being a Gurkha meant more than having a job. It was an identity that connected them to generations of ancestors who had fought in mountains, jungles, and deserts across the world. The blessing ceremony concluded with the traditional war cry, Ao Gurkhali, meaning the Gurkhas are coming. The sound echoed across the courtyard with fierce pride and determination. Princess and had heard this cry before during military demonstrations, but tonight it carried special meaning as she stood among the men who would shout these words before charging into battle. After the ceremony, the princess was invited to a cultural evening where Gurkha families shared their music, dance, and food traditions. The mess hall had been decorated with Nepali flags, British military banners, and colorful prayer flags that added brightness to the military surroundings. Mrs. Kamala Garoon and other military wives had spent days preparing traditional Nepali dishes. The tables groaned under the weight of momos, steamed dumplings, gundruk, fermented vegetable soup, sel roti, traditional ring-shaped bread, and dozens of other delicacies that most British visitors had never tasted. Princess Anne approached the buffet with genuine curiosity, asking questions about ingredients and cooking methods. She accepted small portions of several dishes, complimenting the cooks and asking for recipes. Her willingness to try unfamiliar foods delighted the Nepali women, who had worried that their cooking might seem strange to British taste buds. The cultural program began with traditional Nepali folk dances performed by soldiers and their families. Men wore white shirts and Nepali caps while dancing in formation, their movements telling stories of mountain life, farming seasons, and warrior traditions. Women in colorful saris danced separately, their graceful gestures depicting birds, flowers, and daily village activities. 12-year-old Rekha Rai, daughter of Private Anish Rai, performed a solo dance that captivated the entire audience. Despite being born in Britain, she moved with a natural rhythm that seemed to flow in her blood from generations of Nepali ancestors. Her performance bridged two worlds, honoring her heritage while demonstrating how culture could thrive far from its homeland. The evening's entertainment included traditional Nepali music played on authentic instruments brought from the Himalayas. The haunting sound of the mattle drum and the sweet notes of the bansuri flute transported listeners to mountain villages where similar music had echoed for centuries. Princess Anne sat beside Colonel Morrison and Sergeant Major Garoon, asking questions about the meaning behind different songs and dances. She learned that many folk songs told stories of soldiers leaving home, the sadness of families left behind, and the joy of warriors returning with honor. One particularly moving song, performed by an elderly Gurkha veteran, told the story of a young man leaving his village to serve in foreign lands. The singer's weathered voice cracked with emotion as he reached verses about missing family festivals, the birth of children he could not see, and the constant hope of eventual return to familiar mountains. The song affected many listeners who had lived similar experiences. Princess Anne noticed tears in the eyes of several soldiers and their wives, understanding that the music touched deep feelings of sacrifice and longing that were part of military life. Between musical performances, children presented Princess Anne with artwork they had created especially for her visit. 8-year-old Kumar Thapa had drawn a picture showing British and Nepali flags flying together over mountain peaks. His teacher explained that Kumar had never seen Nepal's mountains, but he dreamed of visiting his grandparents' village someday. Teenage Sita Gurung presented a carefully written essay about growing up as a Gurkha daughter in Britain. Her writing revealed the complexity of maintaining Nepali identity while fully embracing British culture. "I'm proud to be both," she had written. "My roots are in Nepal's mountains, but my wings have grown in British schools." The princess read portions of the essay aloud, praising Sita's thoughtful words and encouraging her academic ambitions. She promised to look into scholarship opportunities for military children pursuing higher education, showing that royal visits could create lasting practical benefits beyond ceremonial honors. As the evening progressed, informal conversations developed between Princess and various family members. She spoke with teenagers about their career plans, with mothers about raising children far from extended family, and with fathers about balancing military duty with family responsibilities. These personal discussions revealed the princess's genuine interest in understanding how military service affected entire families, not just the soldiers themselves. She took mental notes about challenges that might be addressed through policy changes or support programs. The cultural evening concluded with a group photograph that would hang in the regiment's mess hall for decades to come. Princess Anne stood in the center, surrounded by Gurkha soldiers in their dress uniforms and family members in traditional Nepali clothing. British officers and their families completed the picture, creating a visual representation of the military community's diversity and unity. After the formal photograph, Princess and spent additional time meeting with individual families, signing autographs for children, and listening to personal stories that revealed both struggles and triumphs of military life. These conversations continued well past the scheduled end of evening activities, demonstrating her commitment to understanding the human dimension of military service. Young mothers showed her photographs of children's achievements. Elderly grandmothers shared memories of Nepal, and teenagers discussed their hopes for the future. Each conversation added depth to the princess's understanding of how military families navigated between honoring their heritage and embracing their adopted homeland. The evening ended with traditional blessing ceremonies where Gurkha elders offered white scarf called kadas to Princess, and symbolizing respect, purity, and good wishes. She received each scarf gracefully, understanding that these gestures carried deep cultural significance beyond their simple appearance. As families began to depart, children approached Princess and with handmade gifts, drawings, small carved items, and traditional Nepali bracelets woven with red and yellow threads. She accepted each gift personally, promising to treasure them as reminders of her visit to the Gurkha community. The day had revealed layers of military life that extended far beyond training exercises and combat operations. Princess Anne had witnessed how military service created unique communities where different cultures blended while maintaining their distinct identities, where families made extraordinary sacrifices for duty and honor, and where traditions from ancient mountains continued to thrive in modern British military bases. The second morning of Princess Anne's visit began at dawn with physical training alongside the Gurkha soldiers. Despite her royal status and the formal nature of most royal engagements, the princess had requested to participate in the regiment's daily fitness routine. She arrived at the training ground wearing appropriate exercise clothes and military-issue boots, ready to experience firsthand the physical demands placed on these elite soldiers. Sergeant Major Bishnu Gurung had designed a modified version of the standard morning routine, ensuring it would be challenging but appropriate for their distinguished visitor. The session began with traditional warm-up exercises that Gurkha recruits had been performing for generations, movements that developed both strength and flexibility essential for mountain warfare. Princess Anne participated enthusiastically, following the exercises with determination that impressed the watching soldiers. Her military background and lifelong commitment to physical fitness served her well as she tackled rope climbing, obstacle courses, and endurance challenges designed to simulate combat conditions. The training included demonstrations of the unique skills that made Gurkha soldiers famous throughout the military world. Princess Anne watched as soldiers moved silently through jungle terrain, demonstrating stalking techniques learned in Nepal's dense forests. Their ability to become invisible in natural surroundings had saved countless lives during covert operations in various conflicts. Corporal Tej Limbu, the decorated soldier from Afghanistan, led a demonstration of close-quarters combat techniques using traditional Gurkha methods combined with modern military training. His movements were fluid and precise, showing how ancient martial arts had evolved to complement contemporary warfare tactics. The mountains teach patience and observation, Corporal Limbu explained as he demonstrated camouflage techniques. In Nepal, hunting and surviving require understanding nature completely. These skills translate directly to military operations. Princess Anne participated in marksmanship training, firing both modern rifles and traditional weapons used by Gurkha ancestors. Her shooting skills, developed through years of competitive participation, earned approving nods from veteran marksmen who appreciated accuracy regardless of its source. The physical training session revealed the incredible fitness levels maintained by Gurkha soldiers. These men could march for days through difficult terrain, carrying heavy equipment, scale mountain faces that seemed impossible to climb, and fight effectively at altitudes that left other soldiers struggling for breath. Private Anish Rai demonstrated rock climbing techniques using equipment and methods that combine traditional Nepali mountaineering knowledge with modern military gear. His natural ability on vertical surfaces showed how growing up in Nepal's mountains provided advantages that no amount of training could replicate. In my village, children climb before they walk properly, he explained with a shy smile. The mountains are our playground, our school, and our protection. Coming to flat country was harder than learning to be a soldier. After physical training, Princess toured the regiment's specialized equipment storage areas where gear for different types of operations was maintained. The variety was impressive: cold weather clothing for Arctic conditions, lightweight equipment for jungle operations, mountaineering gear for high-altitude missions, and desert equipment for operations in hot, dry climates. The tour included demonstrations of survival techniques that Gurkha soldiers had adapted from their homeland experiences. Princess learned how these troops could survive in hostile environments using minimal equipment, finding food and water sources that other soldiers might miss, and constructing shelter from natural materials. Warrant Officer Dan Gurung, the regiment's survival instructor, showed how Nepali plant knowledge translated to survival skills in different countries. A soldier who understands how nature works in his homeland can learn to read nature anywhere, he explained. Plants, weather patterns, animal behavior. These things follow similar rules everywhere. The princess watched as soldiers demonstrated water purification methods using techniques passed down through generations of mountain dwellers. These skills had proved invaluable during operations where clean water was scarce or when normal purification equipment failed. Medical training formed another crucial component of Gurkha soldier preparation. The regiment's medics combined modern battlefield medicine with traditional healing knowledge from Nepal. Princess observed training sessions where soldiers learned to treat combat injuries using both advanced medical equipment and improvised techniques suitable for situations where proper medical facilities were unavailable. Dr. Sarah Chun, the regiment's medical officer, explained how traditional Nepali knowledge of medicinal plants supplemented standard medical training. Many Gurkha soldiers know which plants can stop bleeding, reduce pain, or fight infection, she said. This knowledge has saved lives when modern medicines weren't available. The medical training emphasized the buddy system, where soldiers learned to care for wounded comrades under combat conditions. Princess watched practical exercises where troops practiced evacuating casualties from difficult terrain while under simulated enemy fire. These medical skills extended beyond combat situations. Gurkha soldiers often found themselves providing humanitarian assistance during natural disasters or emergencies in civilian areas. Their ability to provide basic medical care, combined with their cultural sensitivity and language skills, made them valuable assets during international relief operations. Following the medical training tour, Princess visited the regiment's communication center, where soldiers maintained contact with units deployed worldwide. The technology was impressive, but equally important were the human skills required to coordinate operations across different time zones, languages, and cultural contexts. Lance Corporal Sita Rana, one of the few female Gurkha soldiers, demonstrated communication protocols used during joint operations with international forces. Her ability to translate not just languages, but also cultural concepts had proved crucial during peacekeeping missions where misunderstandings could escalate into conflicts. Understanding what people really mean requires more than translating words, she explained to Princess Anne. Sometimes silence means agreement. Sometimes it means strong disagreement. A Gurkha soldier must read between the words. The communication center also served as a connection point for families separated by deployment. Princess observed video calls between soldiers and their families in Nepal, witnessing emotional conversations that bridged thousands of miles and multiple time zones. These family connections revealed another dimension of military service sacrifice. Children grew up seeing their fathers through computer screens. Wives managed household alone for months at a time, and elderly parents watched their sons serve countries they had never visited. The afternoon included a visit to the regiment's workshop where soldiers maintained and repaired their equipment. Gurkha troops were renowned for their mechanical skills, and ability to keep weapons and vehicles functioning in challenging conditions where replacement parts might not be available for weeks or months. Staff Sergeant Kieran Limbu supervised the workshop where young soldiers learned everything from basic maintenance to complex repairs. His teaching methods combined formal technical training with practical wisdom gained through years of keeping equipment operational in difficult circumstances. A soldier must understand his equipment like a farmer understands his tools, Staff Sergeant Limbu explained. When something breaks in the middle of nowhere, you cannot call for help. You must know how to fix it yourself or find another way to complete the mission. Princess and watched as soldiers fabricated replacement parts using improvised methods and basic materials. Their resourcefulness and mechanical intuition impressed civilian contractors who had come to respect Gurkha ingenuity during joint operations. The workshop tour included demonstrations of field-expedient repairs that had kept vehicles running during combat operations. Soldiers showed how to fix engines using materials scavenged from abandoned equipment, how to repair radio equipment using components from multiple damaged units, and how to maintain weapons in conditions that would challenge professional gunsmiths. These practical skills reflected broader Gurkha characteristics, self-reliance, resourcefulness, and determination to complete missions regardless of obstacles. Princess and observed how these qualities developed through generations of mountain life, translated directly to military effectiveness. The day concluded with evening discussions between Princess and senior Gurkha officers about the regiment's future challenges and opportunities. These conversations revealed strategic thinking that extended beyond immediate military concerns to longer-term issues affecting Gurkha soldiers and their families. Topics included recruitment challenges as Nepal modernized, and young people found alternative opportunities, pension and retirement issues for soldiers who had served decades away from their homeland, and educational opportunities for second-generation Gurkha children who might want to serve in different capacities. Colonel Morrison and Sergeant Major Gurung presented detailed assessments of how the Gurkha Regiment was adapting to changing military requirements while maintaining the traditions and characteristics that made these soldiers uniquely valuable. These strategic discussions showed Princess and the complex planning required to maintain elite military units in a rapidly changing world, where traditional recruitment patterns were shifting and where military operations required increasingly sophisticated skills while still demanding the fundamental courage and determination that had always characterized Gurkha service. The final day of Princess Anne's visit arrived with special significance as the regiment prepared for a formal parade and award ceremony. This would be the culmination of her time with the Gurkhas, an opportunity to recognize individual achievements and honor the collective service of these remarkable soldiers. Early morning preparations began before sunrise as soldiers pressed uniforms, polished brass buttons, and prepared their equipment for inspection. The parade ground had been meticulously prepared, with white lines marking positions and reviewing stand position for optimal viewing of the ceremony. Sergeant Major Bishnu Gurung conducted final inspections with his characteristic attention to detail. Each soldier's appearance had to be perfect, boots polished to mirror finish, weapons gleaming, and uniforms pressed with military precision. For many of the younger soldiers, this would be their first formal parade before royalty, and the nervous excitement was palpable throughout the barracks. Princess Anne arrived wearing her full military dress uniform, complete with the medals and decorations she had earned through decades of service as Colonel-in-Chief of various regiments. Her presence added gravity and importance to what was already a significant occasion for the regiment. The parade began with the traditional march past, where companies of Gurkha soldiers demonstrated the precision drilling that was a hallmark of British military tradition. Their synchronized movements and impeccable timing reflected months of practice and the discipline that made these troops effective in combat situations. Princess Anne took the salute as each unit passed the reviewing stand. The sight of these compact, tough soldiers marching in perfect formation stirred emotions in spectators who understood the history and sacrifice represented in their ranks. Many of these men had served in dangerous locations around the world, far from their families and homeland, yet they stepped with pride and confidence that spoke of their professional competence and personal courage. The ceremony included presentations of various awards and commendations. Princess Anne personally presented medals to soldiers who had distinguished themselves through exceptional service, bravery in combat, or outstanding contribution to their units and communities. Corporal Tej Limbu stepped forward to receive a commendation for his actions during the Afghanistan mission that had earned him earlier recognition. As Princess Anne pinned the medal to his uniform, she spoke briefly about his courage and the lives he had saved through his quick thinking and determination under fire. "Your actions represent the finest traditions of Gurkha service," she told him, her words carrying special weight coming from someone who understood military operations from both royal and professional perspectives. Private Anish Rai, the young soldier who had been so nervous during the princess's first day, received recognition for excellence in training and rapid adaptation to military life. His transformation from uncertain recruit to confident soldier demonstrated the effective training and mentoring within the regiment. Several senior non-commissioned officers received long service medals, recognizing decades of faithful service to the crown. These veterans had served in multiple conflicts, trained countless young soldiers, and maintained the standards and traditions that made the Gurkha Regiment legendary. Warrant Officer Dan Gurung, who had taught survival skills to Princess Anne earlier in her visit, received special recognition for his development of training programs that had been adopted by other military units. His combination of traditional Nepali knowledge with modern military requirements had created educational courses that were both practical and culturally authentic. The award ceremony also recognized family members who had made significant contributions to the military community. Mrs. Jennifer Walsh, the volunteer teacher who conducted English classes for Gurkha wives, received a certificate of appreciation for her dedication to helping families integrate successfully into British society. Mrs. Kamala Gurung and several other military wives received recognition for their volunteer work supporting new families arriving from Nepal. Their efforts to create welcoming communities and provide practical assistance had made enormous differences in helping families adapt to life far from their homeland. Following the formal presentations, Princess Anne addressed the assembled regiment and families. Her speech acknowledged the unique sacrifices made by Gurkha soldiers and their families, recognizing that military service for them meant not just leaving home for deployments, but permanently relocating to serve a country thousands of miles from where they were born. The Gurkha tradition of service to the British Crown spans more than 2 centuries, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the parade ground. Each generation has added to this legacy of courage, loyalty, and excellence. Today's soldiers continue to write new chapters in this remarkable history. She spoke about the changing nature of military service and how Gurkha soldiers had adapted to new challenges while maintaining the fundamental characteristics that made them valued members of the British Army. Her words recognized both tradition and innovation, honoring the past while encouraging continued evolution. The princess also addressed the families directly, acknowledging the sacrifices made by wives who managed household alone during deployments, children who grew up far from extended family, and elderly parents who watched their sons serve distant countries. Her recognition of family sacrifice resonated deeply with listeners who rarely received such acknowledgement. Military families serve alongside their soldiers, she continued. Your support, understanding, and strength make possible the dedication and focus required for military excellence. The nation owes gratitude to all of you. After her formal address, Princess Anne participated in a traditional Gurkha ceremony that formally welcomed her as an honorary member of the regiment's extended family. This rare honor reflected the mutual respect that had developed during her visit and the genuine connection she had formed with soldiers and families. The ceremony included the presentation of a ceremonial cookery, specially crafted by Nepali artisans and blessed according to traditional rituals. The curved blade bore engravings that told the story of Gurkha's service to Britain, while the handle was carved from wood taken from sacred trees in Nepal's mountains. Accepting this honor, Princess and spoke about the responsibility that came with honorary membership in such a distinguished military family. She promised to continue advocating for Gurkha soldiers and their families, working to address the challenges they faced and ensuring their contributions remained recognized and valued. The ceremony concluded with a final parade where Princess and reviewed the troops one last time. As she walked along the ranks, she paused to speak personally with many soldiers she had met during her visit. These individual conversations reinforced the personal connections that had developed beyond the formal protocols of royal visits. Young Private Anish Rai received particular encouragement as Princess and reminded him that his nervousness during their first meeting had been completely normal and that his development during her visit showed excellent potential for future service. Her personal attention meant everything to the young soldier, who would remember this encouragement throughout his military career. The farewell luncheon brought together British and Gurkha officers, their families, and distinguished guests from the local community who had supported the regiment. Conversations around the lunch tables reflected the relationships and understanding that had developed during the princess's extended visit. Princess Anne used this opportunity to discuss specific initiatives that might address challenges she had observed during her time with the regiment. Her conversations with military leadership focused on practical solutions for education funding, family support programs, and career development opportunities for Gurkha soldiers. She also met with representatives from Nepali community organizations who work to maintain cultural connections and provide assistance to Gurkha families throughout Britain. These discussions explored how different support networks could coordinate more effectively to serve military families' diverse needs. The lunch concluded with presentations to Princess and from various groups within the regiment. Children presented artwork depicting her visit. Wives offered traditional Nepali handicrafts they had created, and soldiers gave her military memorabilia that would remind her of her time with the regiment. Most significantly, the regiment's historian presented Princess and with a specially prepared book documenting the visit through photographs, personal accounts, and official records. This book would preserve the memory of her time with the Gurkhas and serve as a historical record of an important moment in the regiment's long story. As departure time approached, emotional farewells began throughout the military community. Children who had been excited to meet a real princess now felt sad to see their new friend leave. Wives who had shared their homes and stories felt they were saying goodbye to someone who genuinely understood their lives and challenges. The soldiers themselves, tough and disciplined professionals, showed clear emotion as they bid farewell to Princess, and her willingness to participate in their training, learn about their culture, and listen to their concerns had created bonds that transcended the formal relationship between royalty and military personnel. Princess Anne's final act before leaving was to lay a wreath at the regiment's memorial, honoring all Gurkha soldiers who had died in service to Britain. This solemn moment provided fitting closure to a visit that had celebrated life, service, and sacrifice in equal measure. As her car pulled away from the military base, Princess Anne carried with her not just official reports and ceremonial gifts, but personal memories and relationships that would influence her future advocacy for military families. The Gurkhas had given her insights into courage, loyalty, and adaptation that extended far beyond military service to fundamental human values. The regiment returned to its normal routine, but the impact of the royal visit would continue for years to come. Soldiers would tell their children about meeting the princess. Wives would remember her genuine interest in their struggles and achievements, and the entire military community would benefit from the attention and advocacy that followed her visit. Most importantly, the visit had strengthened the bonds between the Gurkha Regiment and the broader British military family, ensuring that these remarkable soldiers and their families would continue to receive the recognition and support their service deserved. Princess Anne's time with the Gurkhas had created lasting change that honored both tradition and future possibilities.